welcome to the Q2 2024 quarterly community call. These calls are a time for orgs to present updates and announcements from the last quarter, while also giving kind of a sneak peek and highlighting some things to look out for in the upcoming quarter. It's also a great place, of course, for the community to ask questions to all of our org contributors and have some contact points with them. A few housekeeping items before we dive in. This call is scheduled for 90 minutes as always. It will be recorded and shared on the Radworks YouTube channel afterwards with all of the relevant links and things mentioned in the call will be added in the description. The recording will be shared later today or tomorrow. And if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and wait your turn to speak, or drop them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them in real time as we go through. So, quick peek at the agenda. Pretty simple today as this time. So, announcements, just a few quick announcements, and then we have our org updates from all of our orgs. We have yet another org to add to our list today, so that's exciting. And just if we have time at the end, we'll do a little general Q&A, but I think we have a few extra announcements at the end of the call today. So yeah, might want to stick around for those too. So going into announcements, the RSN org was added to the family, the Radworks ecosystem, in April. So in the beginning of the quarter. If you missed it, I'll share the submission link in the chat here in just a second. The RSN org, there you go, the RSN org will be presenting for the first time today. The purpose of this org is to provide centralized and decentralized seed node services that make hosting and fetching content from Radicle simple for any developer who's wanting to use Radicle. So really important, cool new org to add to the mix, and excited to hear their first update later today. Another big announcement is to share, which Boredom will say a few more words about this later on the call, but the Radworks grants program has been evolving quite a lot over the last few months. And Boredom posted on the forum a few weeks ago now, or earlier this month, a little update regarding the Radworks, the grants org. Essentially, after receiving feedback from past grantees and also various discussions over the past few months, Radworks grants will be transitioning to a retroactive grants program within the foundation, and the grants org will be sunset. There's a lot of detail. It's explained really well in the forum post that I just shared in the chat. And again, Boredom will say a few more words about that later as well. And then our final announcement, I just wanted to make a quick, or say a quick thing here regarding the Opens Upland Governor upgrade. It went through we submitted it to the July cycle, and unfortunately it did not reach quorum in formal review. So we are still working with the other authors and the foundation to figure out kind of next steps and when the appropriate time to resubmit it will be. So more updates to come there. Just keep an eye on the Discord announcements channel or on the forum, and I'll be sure to post everything, all the information there. So also, as a quick reminder before we dive into all of the org presentations, you can always find all of the written org updates that the org leads present in these calls at community.radworks.org under the org updates subcategory, if you want to follow along there. Otherwise, I will, as always, be dropping the links in the chat. So to kick us off, I will stop sharing my screen and I will hand it off to Radicle Cloudhead, if you're ready to rock.
Yeah, hi. Okay, I will share the update screen so everyone has it. Q2, blah, blah. Okay, great. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go through these. So Radicle Q2 2024 general updates. So since the release candidate phase in March or April, if it was, we've had 12 releases. It's been a nice learning process to do kind of the whole kind of release dance and announcement and everything, and we've learned a lot from that already. So that's been great. The protocol and network are stable since about 6 weeks. So I think that's RC 10. We're on RC 13 now. RC 10 or 11 was the last breaking change we made to the protocol, and there's none planned for there's none planned for now. No future ones. There's about 130 nodes online weekly at the moment, and 30 public seed nodes online. And so these are nodes that are seeding kind of other people's projects or their own, but a lot of them are seeding are kind of a permissive seed nodes. And we're feature complete for 1.0. We're just kind of preparing a release post and blog and polishing a few things here and there. But we're pretty much ready for the final release candidate. Progress on the objectives. So the focus in the last few months has been on stability and user experience. So not so much on adding new features. So the feature work is kind of behind, I would say. But it's starting to pick up again as we're kind of finalizing 1.0. We have signed and reproducible Radicle builds, which is a big deal because, it used to be kind of not possible to verify the release. You would just kind of have to trust us, but now you can, or trust a bunch of things. Now you can kind of verify by yourself. You can have someone else do a build and check that everything matches up, and you can check the signatures. So it's very secure build and release process that we have now. We've added Tor support, and people are liking this from a privacy perspective, but it also is interesting from the perspective of connecting nodes that are behind firewalls or NATs without any seed node. So it kind of works for both of those use cases. CI, so Radicle CI is in a good place. We're not yet, it's not yet fully integrated, but it's been running for a while. It's fairly stable. We've been updating it, and it's going to be integrated soon after 1.0. The web app is in a good place, and we've started working on a desktop app. So the kind of idea with these two apps is the web app is going to remain read-only, and is going to be for non-users, so people who don't have Radicle installed, but an easy way to share links and do that sort of thing. And the desktop app is going to be like kind of a full user experience, read, write, do everything, and kind of more oriented towards people who are familiar with GitHub or people who want a kind of more streamlined experience. The CLI will still stay and will still remain as a more kind of power user tool set. And priority will remain around hosting until there's more demand for collaboration. So most of our users right now are interested in Radicle primarily as a way to host repos on a peer-to-peer network and with high redundancy, not so much to collaborate with others yet. So right now that's kind of the focus, but we're still going to be building collaboration features for ourselves to essentially build Radicle, and that's going to be usable by anyone. In terms of budget, we're quite low. A few people left us early this year and last year, so we're under 60%, and so there's going to be a surplus for next year. Team updates: we have a new team member, Lawrence, who's joined from being a contributor. So he was contributing kind of just from the community and doing some great work, and we extended an offer, and he just joined basically last week. And Stella has joined on a more full-time basis. She was already with us in the last community call, I'm pretty sure. But although I wasn't there, I think anyway. She's more full time now, so that's been great. Working more on the product strategy and content, like the guides and everything. Zlatan has left a few months ago, and then finally some event things. We had an offsite in May in Berlin. That was really great, really fun, very productive. We had the integrations team join us also. It was in a really nice venue. And we also had a kind of event there, like a drinks reception with a bunch of randoms, essentially people from the community. And it was really nice. Lots of people came and said hi. And yeah, it was great fun. We spoke at an event in Neuchâtel around privacy called Privacy Reunion, which is a really good event with kind of like-minded folks. And that went well. We spoke about essentially the Tor integration and a couple of other things. It was very well received. We're planning another offsite sometime in September or October, probably in Berlin, around one of these two conferences. One is the Git Merge conference, which is a conference about Git, and the other is Causal Islands, which is kind of a conference about the future of computing and programming. And so they're kind of both in September and October. So we're trying to align the offsite with one of these two events. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah, questions? Just it's kind of under 15 minutes. So if anyone wants to ask anything. No? All right, we can continue then.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Cloudhead, for the update. And I will pass it now off to Jason, and I will share my. Or wait, no, you're gonna try sharing your screen first, right?
Yeah. Let's
okay.
Yeah. Sorry, my internet is kind of struggling at the moment. I hope it's gonna be okay. Let's see.
Can't handle.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes. Could you zoom in a little bit though, please?
Sure. Like that?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Right, let's, okay, so yeah, again, presenting on behalf of Ayla because he couldn't make it, unfortunately, but yeah. Let's just get into the general announcement first. So, I mean, yeah, the big theme in Q2 for us has been L2 deployments. So we already mentioned this last quarter. Basically, we have a number of very kind of significant partnerships in the pipeline that depend on us deploying on a few different L1s and L2s. So we spent a lot of time, basically all of our time, really, to unlock those L2 deployments and make them easy and fast for us, and also just kind of scalable for everyone. That said, we did unfortunately hit a few kind of unexpected roadblocks, which at the end of the day was expected in a way because it's a very, a hard thing to do. But basically, I mean, the main things are we obviously want the DAO, Radworks DAO, to own these contracts, but of course the DAO is only on mainnet. So we had to come up with a solution for bridging the governance over to those other chains. That's done and also already audited, so that blocker is resolved. Then we also had a problem where the Oracle provider that we were using on mainnet was not available on many of those L2s that we were interested in. But we, more on this later, but we found a solution for that as well, so that blocker is also resolved. Anyway, as you can tell, the theme is kind of, there's been blockers, but they're kind of all resolved now, so we're pretty much ready. So very soon we should finally get started with this. Other than that, we have, of course, again, made progress with just onboarding orgs generally, even other than L2s. And we just announced ENS in Q2, which is awesome. So we got ENS funding dependencies with 50K in total to a bunch of awesome projects, which is obviously kind of huge for us because ENS is a massive name, and having them on board is going to help us greatly going forward. Then also updates. So last quarter, we demoed multi-party or multiplayer drip lists in the app. So this feature is live now. We haven't really announced it yet because it's still kind of in an experimental stage, but it's there now. And we talked to a lot of people that are quite interested in giving it a try. So it's kind of like a tool for us to use in the sales process, if you will. Quite excited to see, hopefully, some real usage of this very soon. Actually, it will be used definitely by the grants program, which I'm sure we're going to hear about a little bit more later. Cool. And then on the recipient side, we've, of course, continued getting some really well-known FOSS projects into Drips. If you want, you can check out the full list of projects on the Drips website. But some quick highlights from Q2 are, of course, Protocol Guild, which has claimed their funds, which is awesome. DRAND, a very exciting project as well. Then Svelte, which is huge. Like, we all love Svelte, and they're on board now on Drips, which is awesome. And also Rollup, which is, again, kind of a very fundamental, like, front-end tooling project that we've now onboarded to Drips, which I think those last two are especially exciting because they don't have anything to do with Web3. So yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of bridge the gap into the non-Web3 world. Okay, moving on to yearly objectives. So, I mean, nothing here really has changed from the last update because, as I said, we did have those kind of blockers with the L2 deployments. So the situation is essentially the same. We have a few very worthwhile leads in the pipeline that are quite close to closing. And now that we've resolved many of those blockers, we expect a lot of movement very soon. Okay, moving on to product roadmap. I actually prepared some visuals, so let me just pull these up real quick. 1 second. Full screen. Okay, you can all see the presentation?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Okay. So yeah, as I said, focus in Q2 was basically just like multi-chain and also more generally just scaling the app because we were kind of very rapidly shipping stuff last year just to find PMF, and we believe that we found it. So now we're kind of doubling down and also resolving a bunch of tech debt and just kind of getting ready to be more agile and like scale to different chains, but also just to more users. That was really the main focus on the app side as well this quarter. So yeah, there's a few key improvements that I quickly would like to walk you through, starting with some like kind of backend infrastructure stuff. So this is a very rough representation of what the Drips stack looked like at the beginning of Q2. As you see the Drips app here, this is what the users interact with. It interacts directly with the smart contracts on Ethereum and also with IPFS. And then we kind of index that data into this custom indexing stack that we've built that just looks at all the events and then builds like a representational database of everything that's going on chain. And then this is exposed to the app through our custom GraphQL API. However, at the beginning of Q2, we still had this other part, which is the Drip subgraph, which basically just serves like raw on-chain events for the app. And the reason we still had this is because there's a ton of very crazy, complicated logic in the Drips app for like figuring out the real-time balance of all the accounts, streams and stuff. And the way this was working in the beginning of Q2 was by basically just looking at the raw events, querying them all on the front end, and then doing a bunch of crazy math and displaying that to the user, which just wasn't scalable at all because, as the history grows on chain, that math gets less and less efficient, and more and more events have to be fetched. So we had to get rid of this before we could really scale. And so you can probably tell where this is going. We got rid of it. Everything is now self-contained in this custom query layer basically that we've built, and you can basically get the entire on-chain state of the Drips network through this one GraphQL endpoint now, which is pretty sweet and was a big project, but definitely necessary for us to scale, not just to more networks, but also to scale generally. Yeah, super excited about that. Then real quick, another thing actually seems pretty small, but made a huge difference. So we migrated our app away from Netlify as the host to like a node server running in Railway, which is like one of those infrastructure providers that we use for basically all of our services. And just like moving it into the same network, like closer to the rest of the infrastructure, has immensely improved performance. Like, so the Drips app, like if you've last used it like a few weeks ago, like give it another try now, because basically everything loads instantly, which is so cool. Honestly feels like a different app. So yeah, I think this really kind of shows that every now and then just kind of cleaning house a little bit and doing some maintenance really makes a big difference in terms of end user UX. Moving on to the most important topic though, multi-chain. Just real quick, a little note. So I'm going to show you some slides, and they're going to be mentioning specific L2 networks. That doesn't mean that those are definitely the networks that we're going to deploy to next. They're just illustrative, just so that no one gets confused. So first big update here, already alluded to this earlier. So Igor was working on resolving this one last remaining major blocker for deploying our contracts on L2s, which was that we didn't have a Oracle solution. Of course, the Oracle solution is required to read this funding.json file that we use in order to grant access to specific Ethereum addresses on Drips. So Igor has completed basically just rewrote a little bit of our code for the L2 deployment so that we can use Radicle Org functions, which is already available on most kind of worthwhile L2s, I would say. And if it's not, we're also in contact with them, and they can kind of deploy on different networks as well if we really need them to. So yeah, this is a big blocker resolved there. Then moving on the app side in terms of multi-chain, we are planning to roll out this multi-chain experience in 2 stages, essentially. So the first kind of alternative network that we're going to deploy on, we're just going to have a very simple situation where like there's going to be, for example, like optimism.drips.network, like a separate deployment of the app that talks to this other network. And you can switch between them with a very simple network picker, which you see in a lot of the apps these days. So that's already all done. So we're basically ready, like without further ado, to just like deploy the app for a different network. But what we're most excited about is actually something that we already started working on, going back to this little infrastructure overview here, which is that instead of just having a single set of contracts here that we index in our backend, let's say, we actually already completed all the work required for us to be able to index the state from as many networks as we want into a single database, and then expose all of this data through the same endpoint so that we can build like a truly multi-chain app that doesn't just like talk to one network at a time, but actually allow you to see data from across all the networks that Drips is supported on, which we think is very important for UX, especially as we add, a third and a fourth deployment. So this is obviously still design, but we are working on this kind of ultimate multi-chain version of the app where you can see that, you're viewing a single project, but you can see the total income across all the chains, and you can see the splits on all the chains, and you can see the kind of support and income across chains. And then also, of course, as a recipient, we can like walk you through claiming your project on all these different chains in like a streamlined process, which we think is very important because multi-chain generally is like quite hard to do good UX with, but I think with this we can make it as painless as possible. So yeah, that's the update there. So yeah, quite excited about launching the first L2 network very soon. Okay, that's it for me. Ooh. Right, any questions?
One question. You mentioned Svelte and a bunch of other non-Web3 projects being onboarded. Do you mean they're using Drips directly, or because I know you're also using Open Collective as a sort of bridge between Web2 and Web3?
Yeah, so they actually, I mean, the people from Svelte and some of these other projects that use Open Collective, they actually did create that funny.json file, and they did come to Drips and claim their project, but they're collecting to an address controlled by Open Collective.
So it's kind of a hybrid approach.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just kind of funneling the money through Open Collective so that they don't need like a legal entity to receive funds. Yeah. Okay. I think cool. That like that partnership with OC has really unlocked a lot of recipients for us, which is great because they have just not very easy for a lot of open source projects to accept funding.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks.
Very cool. Anyone else have any other questions for Jason or the Drips org? No? Going once, going twice. Great. Well, that was very exciting. Lots of big announcements there. Curious to see how everything evolves going into Q3 now. But we will keep it moving then, and I will pass it off to the Radicle Integrations and Tooling org if you folks are ready to go.
Yes, thank you, Shelby. Share my screen. So you can hopefully see our update.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right. So yes, also for us, one of the highlights this quarter was the face-to-face in Berlin, where we got a chance to be in the same room and sit down and chat and kind of align and just be around the other Radicle core team folks. Yeah, so that was great, and I noticed in the previous update there are plans for another one, and that's really good news. Yeah. Anyway, so kind of apart from that, I've got like a few highlights to go through here. We'll also have a quick demo coming up in VS Code by Costis. But yeah, so the kind of first area we did some work in was in packaging. Other contributors, other community contributors have packaged Radicle for other distributions or for NICs. We did some work on packaging Radicle in containers, so people can just run Docker Compose up or Pod1 Compose. And we have a repository on Radicle that has the Compose file that you would need to pull container images. What's interesting is that apart from obviously this repo being hosted on Radicle, and the actual publishing of the container images dog foods on some of the other integrations we have going. So we're hosting this repository on Radicle. We've written a concourse pipeline here, and through the CI integrations, we have some pipelines here in concourse that are basically running tests. When there's a new release in Heartwood, we're running the tests, and then we're basically building and pushing the image to these repositories in key.io. Yeah, so there are a couple of pipelines. People with questions can come back to that later. Yeah, so there's where like the work we've done before to get these integrations going. Now we're starting to use it for ourselves to actually make our lives easier. And yeah, there are tags for these images. So for Radicle node, every time there's a new release, there's a new image published. And for the GitHub Actions integration, there is, this is what it looks like. So this is a patch on the Radicle JetBrains plugin. And what it currently looks like is it has this form of a comment where we are reporting on the Radicle patch the status of the GitHub action run, which is kind of the actual job. We ran some tests in this particular one. It's still an open patch, and it's some of the jobs are failing. But yeah, browsing the patch, we can see it, and we can go and find out what actually happened and kind of fix that as a way to move forward. So that's kind of a combination of like the packaging work and kind of the CI/CD integrations, kind of 2 in 1. In the other area of the IDE tooling, so on the IntelliJ JetBrains front, we've actually made quite a few improvements in the collaboration process. And we have a video here, which I won't go through now, but it basically walks you through. You can look at this offline if you're interested. So it basically emulates that we have like 2 users. So like the left side is one user, the right side is one user, and then one user opens a patch, and then the other user kind of, yeah, this is like opening a patch, and then there's a review here, and then there's a comment, an inline comment here, and then there's an approval. And well, in the end, the patch gets merged. Yeah. So that's kind of peer-to-peer decentralized collaboration through the IntelliJ plugin, which is one of the two IDs that we've been working on. The second one, and of course also nowadays the most popular one, is VS Code, where we've just shipped a pretty chunky, big release. So I'll pass it on to Kostis, and he can hopefully show us.
Yep. Okay, so I will take it over. I will share my screen. And I will open my VS Code. And so where we left off, let me open perhaps another window. Let's open Hardwood for now. Where we left off, kind of midway through the quarter, we released this brand new, I will make it big and I will zoom in to make it a little bit bigger. This brand new patch detail view, where we can see all the information about the patch and some actions we can take on it here, status, some major events, title, labels if there are, here there is none, authors, the activity with the time ago. There are some clickable elements here where we can browse the revisions, and we can even see the review here and the review comments. So we can get at a glance what happened, created, last updated, and merged. And another major thing that has happened is that I haven't clicked this on purpose because the extension hasn't loaded the patches yet, but I want to, if it's so fast that it's kind of hard to see how quickly the patches load, even for a real world repo like Hardwood. So that was it, and we have loaded what is like 150 patches. And of course, we can hover over each one of them and inspect it. So this is where we left up. I like this patch as a demo, but I want to go to some more recent updates. If I close this, I will open Playground patch that I have. Let's open again this one here. And here we can see that we can now, for example, these patches, we can change its status, which is, as we can see on the tooltip, even draft. We can make it now open, or we can even go from here. That's because I have the access rights on Hardwood I didn't have, so I didn't have these options, and we can make this back to draft. Or we can go all the way and edit the title. And this is something cool that I want to show you. For example, we have here, now we edit. We see the progress indicator that even cascades to the toolbar. So even if this is closed, you will see it. There was apparently something that went wrong because demo gods, of course. I will try something else. I will put a big, let's say that we do a very important comment here that we really don't want to lose. And something happens, I don't know, like our battery runs out or the operating system crashes, which seems to happen a lot these days. So I will close this editor, simulating the editor closing unexpectedly for whatever reason. We have here something very important. And I close it, haven't saved it. I will open VS Code again. And we see that it's preserved. We wouldn't want to lose this state. We're still here. We're still editing exactly where we left off, along with the other tabs. And we can Control Enter or press the Save button here. And this will update. Another cool thing that I want to showcase is that there has been a very big change in the an underlying architecture between how the state of the extension is translated, is shared between the state of these web views, as they are called technically. So even if we have, I don't know, this one here, for example, and I go to this much changes paths and I change it to open, we will see that this updates, this icon updates, even if it's in the background. If I click it, I see the same thing. What you would expect, but there's a lot of work that has been done behind the scenes and a lot of edge cases, so that even if we check out, we see the indicator here updating everywhere. And you can perhaps see how this will translate into the future, where the direction is going with this reactivity architecture we have developed. I want to cut it short. There have been plenty more things, like we mentioned some performance improvements, or what would be further performance improvements. We've done some security passes, and that's more or less some highlights, but I want to mention one more thing before I let you go. We have been publishing, of course, our extension in the Visual Studio Marketplace, official one for VS Code, which is a very centralized place owned by Microsoft, but along with the theme of Radicle, which is about decentralization, we are now available to the OpenVSX registry since today, and the Radicle is still there. So for users who don't want to use VS Code itself, they want to use, for example, popular fork VS Codium, they can still easily, or any other one, they can still easily find the extension and go along the way. And again, this is a target group of users that is very aligned with our own ideals. So you can see that probably there is a good reach and perhaps a good conversion rate that we might have in this audience. That's it from me. I will give the microphone back to Yorgos, and thank you for your time.
Cool, thanks for this, and I'll quickly share my screen again. Yes, okay. Okay, so that was VS Code and the work there. In the Radicle planning boards, which is another tool we've been working on, the main work we've done there is on filtering, so it's easier to figure out and kind of like spot issues that you're working on across the whole board. And there's a video here that kind of shows more on that feature, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'll briefly go over some of the other objectives and kind of upcoming stuff. So on the user research front, Vangelis Vanton, who is also on the call here, has taken the lead here in this area, and we've started establishing, how the methodology around how we'll kind of be speaking to users. We want to start speaking with 3 groups: node operators, maintainers, and kind of just simple contributors to open source projects. And start speaking to these groups. We've started working on a value proposition canvas to kind of an initial scenario for each one of these, and start talking to them with questionnaires and user interviews to get their feedback. Also these days I'm attending another conference, so I'm also speaking to people here, mostly open source maintainers, about what they need to move to Radicle. There are many more details on the development roadmap about each tool, and you can just expand these sections on the forum update. On the kind of budget front, we are a little bit over budget right now, but the kind of trend is looking good. What isn't looking good is the kind of RAD price fluctuation, which is something that might cause a problem for us. We were counting on this RAD to essentially, pay people to work on the project, and this is something we'll need to look into in the coming quarter for sure. For kind of Q3, we will have a bit of migration work to align with basically the kind of direction the Radicle core team is drawing. There were changes to the HTTP API, which we were basing some of our integrations on, and we'll need to move to the CLI. We're also going to be doing some work around our kind of opening up some more scripts, deployment scripts, and monitoring scripts and templates about our public seed node, which is what I've been using. So it's on Explorer Radicle GR and Seed Radicle GR. Yeah, finally, with kind of regards to the CI integrations, we want to move completely off of GitHub Actions, and we want to explore some kind of security and kind of automated dependency update integrations in this coming quarter to be able to move all of our workflow on Radicle itself. So that was it from us. I'll stop the screen share. And yes, I hope I think I was a minute over time. Sorry about that, Helpy.
All good. Does anybody have any questions for Yorgos or the Radicle Integrations and Tooling org? No? Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much, folks, and for the demo as well. We always love a demo. Great. Okay, then we will keep it moving then, and I'll hand it off to the RSN org to give their very first ever, making their debut on the Radworks community calls.
Great. Thank you, Shelby. Just gonna do a quick introduction because I'm here for the first time. My name is Johannes. Working on tech for a long time, but also always pretty close to product. So I'm really excited to support the org with basically what I can bring in, like tech and product expertise. Quick recap on what we're doing with RSN. We basically want to offer content retrieval. We have two working streams. Short term is a centralized versions for us to learn. Idea is beyond us learning, also lower the barrier of entry for other people. There's been plenty of discussion on it and ideas from many people that are also here right now. And the other working stream is basically the decentralized physical infrastructure networks, the DePIN idea around like incentivizing a broader seed network. We heard from Alexis in the beginning, the node statistics. The network is growing, but at the same time, you know, if demand grows and you have certain orgs joining, which might have hard requirements, you would want to be able to support their requirements as well. I'm going to share my screen real quick for the updates. Yes, it's a short one. I haven't started so long ago. So the update is basically we hired me. Ada can't be here, as Jason already said. In parallel for the DePIN workstream, Ele has been driving this, working on the tokenomics working group. He's going to share more updates later. Yeah, he will be back online soon, hopefully, once the family health issue resolves. Our quarterly objectives are hiring and onboarding new engineers. Again, first progress there. In general, a bit behind time if we compare that to the formal proposal that was assuming that we would have a tiny bit more engineers by now, but that's going to follow soon after. At the same time, yeah, what we're working on in terms of like the short-term centralized learning working stream is running nodes ourselves. I have been starting to engage a bit more with Radicle team members to understand the product, the code base, open issues, anything that kind of fits into the broader journey of like bridging the gap and lowering the barrier of entry. So next smaller task I would say is I think in March there was already someone shared the idea of like the ask to be seated idea, right? We have plenty of permissive nodes, but I think that's a cool way to get your repo pinned as well. What I've saw from engaging with the community as well is people are looking for trying out Radicle without, putting stuff on the network on a permanent record. So all of that is related to barrier of entry. And yeah, in general, like that should really start conversations, right? That's mainly thought as a conversation starter. And we hope to engage with community members and with everyone here as well. So far, as we're behind on hiring, we're within budget, slightly behind the timeline. I guess everything is like pushed behind by a month by now, but I hope that we can catch up before the end of the year. That's it for me.
Great. Thank you so much. Exciting to see, even just these brief updates to see the kind of beginnings of the RSN org take seed here. So, anybody have any questions for Johannes or about the RSN org at all? No. Okay. Well, excited to hear more in Q3. Thank you so much. Yeah, welcome aboard. Yeah, welcome. Okay, so I will now invite Boredom to join the stage here and share a bit more about the update on the evolution of the Radworks grants program. And I will also actually share my screen for him. Is it sharing? Do you see the introducing retroactive grants post?
No.
No. Okay. One more time. How about now? Do you see it now?
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
I can just go ahead.
Apologies.
I can go ahead without it though.
Sure. Yeah, you go ahead and I'll try to keep playing with this.
Sure. Yeah, so based on feedback, I think kind of late last year, going into early this year, was that we saw more of a space for grants to be doing retroactive funding. I would say up until then, the majority of the work had been what I would call, I guess, proactive funding, where we're kind of planning ahead of work and then paying out before work was done. And that had some successes. I think Yorgos's team worked really closely with us before they started their own org. So we had some successes with that approach of proactively funding work. But based on the feedback kind of going into tail end of last year and early this year, we thought it was best to just kind of take a step back and focus more on retroactive funding and essentially let users and anyone involved in the community to organically come on board, pitch in wherever they want to, and then if and when someone does something that's valuable, then kind of pay them retroactively. So logistically speaking, it basically the kind of big logistics of this is basically returning all of the budget from the grants org back to the foundation, and then those funds will be used by the foundation to pay out for retroactive work, and this is primarily focused on anyone within the DRIPS ecosystem. So not so much with Radicle. So if anyone ends up, for example, using the SDK or doing anything in the DRIPS ecosystem, that the team would evaluate that work and then recommend payouts retroactively. So I think in terms of kind of like the governance of that, I think we're still kind of figuring that bit out. But yeah, more to come on that. But basically, for now, the org for grants, as far as having a multi-sig and a budget that's separate from the foundation, that's no longer there. So we've returned all the funds in the last 2 weeks.
Thank you for sharing, Boredom. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Boredom about the evolution of the grants program? No? Okay. And yeah, again, maybe go take a look at the forum post. I think it's laid out really nicely there as well, and links also out to some other forum discussions that have taken place over the last few months around the grants program as well. Okay, well then I will now pass it off to Angie. I unfortunately am having some technical difficulties, so I cannot share my screen, but I asked Abby if she was able to share the...
No worries, Shelby. I can share mine. No worries.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
don't know
no
why.
worries. So hi, everyone. It's good to see so many faces. I'm going to start off our update from the Foundation org with a people update. As those of you who are in Discord know, Shelby and Abby will be wrapping up their current roles with Radworks in the coming weeks. I know that this isn't goodbye, since I know that you two will remain in the community, but I did want to thank you both for your passion, your drive to see this project and its contributors succeed. Abby, it's been a wild, wild ride, and through highs and lows, it's really been a joy to see how you've evolved this project and how this project has evolved you. So thank you both. I certainly look forward to seeing what you do next and the impact that you are sure to make. I know that Abby wanted to say something else, so I will also pass it on to her before proceeding with the rest of the Foundation update.
Yeah, I'll just keep it very short. I already wrote this message in core. Just wanted to thank everybody again for the wild ride that the last couple of years have been. I'm just really immensely proud and inspired by all the work that we've done together. But this really isn't a goodbye. I'll be around in the ecosystem, participating in governance, hanging out, screaming drips and Radicle and all of the other orgs' accomplishments as loud as I can. So, but just wanted to thank everybody for the time, and yeah, it's not a goodbye though, so I'll be around.
Great, thank you, Abby. All right, so then diving into the Foundation org update, of course, the departure of Abby and Shelby kind of informed some of our update. So now to kind of diving into some of these things. The strategy committee is being sunset. There is more information about this linked in our announcements, so please feel free to click there for more information as to how we are evolving some of these objectives or how these objectives have changed given some of the shifts in the project more generally and the narrative that we want to build around the project. A marketing update. So we updated the approach to marketing back in April. Again, I've linked to a post that you can look at it. The goals of this sort of revamped approach have been to increase awareness around the RAD token among potential token holders, increase awareness around the Radworks ecosystem projects, and improve the quality of interactions and engagement between participants participants within Radworks. I wanted to talk a little bit, make a little bit of an update here because we have two fantastic new people joining us. We have Ed, who will be leading the marketing team going forward, and we have Simon, who will also be doing video production. We are sharing Simon with Drips as well, so he'll be also doing some great work on the drip side of things as well. So please give these folks a warm welcome. These are two great individuals who are very lucky to have. Just to kind of speak to some of the marketing update from the past quarter, I think the goals for Q2 were quite ambitious. So most of the focus of Q2 really was actually just hiring these folks and also starting to onboard them. So we will see, you'll notice that this the foundation has generally been under budget for Q2, but specifically with regards to marketing, just a footnote here that the marketing expenses came way under budget than what was linked to in this post from April. So more updates there, especially as we start to onboard Simon and Ed even more in Q3. We'll be combining operations and governance going forward. So given Shelby's departure as well, what we've been doing is gradually onboarding operations folks to the work that she's been doing. And at this point in time, we're also taking a closer look at these sort of operations to think through, what are the needs of the community with regards to governance? What kind of governance do we want to have going forward as well? It became clear as well too, and just maybe to take a step back and describe this transition from governance into kind of more of a GovOps. We've also realized too that given the work that Abby and Shelby have put in to streamlining some of the functions and processes within governance, these actually became more operational things that could be actually executed on within a more operational team. So it actually has made a lot of sense to be onboarding the operations folks to these tasks. But yeah, there are tasks that we are currently discussing on how we want to move forward with. As Boredom said, we've also sort of launched a grants program within the foundation. And as he mentioned, these are retroactive rewards to community contributors for their input towards the development and adoption of Radworks funded technology, and specifically DRIPS. Wendy will be coordinating the first grant cycle in July, and we anticipate doing a summary of those grants probably towards the beginning of August. And last but not least, because of all these changes that are going on related to our committee structure and the introduction of the grants program, we have revised the Foundation 2024 budget, which I've also linked to and shared in a post. And yeah, the budget hasn't changed, but has been sort of redistributed. So we thought it was worth just providing some transparency around that and reposting this to the forum. So that's kind of it from our side. Happy to go into any more details if people want them, need them. Thanks.
Thank you, Angie. Does anybody have any questions for Angie regarding the Foundation Org update? Great. If not, then thank you, Angie, for presenting. I'll also just drop in a few words here quickly too. It has been an absolute pleasure to get to know and grow with this community and help build up governance. Working with Abby to build out governance and witness its decentralization journey and get to be a part of stewarding that. It's been so wonderful to work with all of the different contributors in the community to evolve all these cool new governance mechanisms that we've in community, like ecosystem restructuring and everything. And yeah, it will always have a special place in my heart, and I'll definitely miss. Well, I'll still join the calls, but leading these calls and seeing everyone every quarter here too. So thank you to everyone. It's been an absolutely wonderful past few years. And yeah, as Abby mentioned, it's not goodbye. I'll still be around participating and creeping on the forums and everything as well. So yeah, thanks everyone. This will probably be my last community call I lead. So thanks for joining today as well. As always, I will be posting the recording probably today yet still, and also with all the links and everything that was shared. Thank you to all the presenters for presenting these awesome org updates. There's some really exciting stuff shared today, and I'm so excited to follow it and the for the rest of the year and beyond. So yeah, I will end it there. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Shelby.
Thanks, folks.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.